Hey guys, what's going on? I hope everybody's doing well considering everything. I am working on a mix here of a live performance, and I'm going to play it back first, and I'm going to break down what I did to make it sound like that and what plugins I used and what workflow and also what I threw on the mixing bus. It is fairly simple, not a large session, and it's a great way to talk about it and to brainstorm a little bit. All right, here we go.
I used to take the long way round when the mountain was too tall, but now my sights are set upon the highest peak of all. You taught me how to climb, and now I'm reaching for the top. Every step is stronger, I don't ever want to stop. And it's go, go, go. If you don't, then it's gonna be gone. Can't be slow, treading lazy if you don't get on. One thing that I know, gotta do it if it's gonna get done. The fisherman goes hungry when his nets are never cast. The fritter takes a hit if she can't make her miles fast. The treasure's for the finding, but the leads won't always last. I believe if I keep searching, then my time will come to pass. And it's go, go, go. If you don't, then it's gonna be gone. Can't be slow, treading lazy if you don't get on. One thing that I know, gotta do it if it's gonna get done. Do 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 do. And it's go, go, go. If you don't, then it's gonna be gone. Can't be slow, treading lazy if you don't get on. One thing that I know, gotta do it if it's gonna get done. Do 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 do. And it's go, go, go. If you don't, then it's gonna be gone. Can't be slow, slow, treading lazy if you don't get on. One thing that I know, gotta do it if it's gonna get done. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
So good ways, of course, to start with the starting point, which was a rough mix. Let's listen to that.
I used to take the long way round when the mountain was too tall, but now my sights are set upon the highest peak of all. You taught me how to climb, and now I'm reaching for the top. Every step is stronger, I don't ever want to stop. And it's go, go, go. If you don't, then it's gonna be gone. Can't be slow, treading lazy.
All right, so right off the bat, I felt, wow, that sounds pretty good. That is a live recording, and it's got a lot of energy, And you can definitely tell that this is a great song. So what I try to improve on is to give it a little bit more of a polished sound, a little bit cleaner, a bit more definition in the low end. And yeah, bring the vocals forward a little bit more, give it a little bit of sparkle, but while retaining, of course, that energy, that togetherness that this band has. So purely mixing, purely adjusting channels, not moving things around, not doubling too many tracks. One of the things is that is a live recording. So if you now start, adding crazy effects and so forth, you are creating something that's it just doesn't match the picture, if that makes any sense. I mean, there's a stage, a virtual stage that I have in mind, and I don't want to break it. It doesn't mean you can't. You can do anything you want, but for the purpose of this exercise, I wanted to keep it basically seeing a movie in my head. What would that be if they're in front of me and I'm having a really, really good seat, and it's a really, really good room, and I'm hearing everything clean and clear, yet I'm not in a situation where it's like completely produced. So that is, I think, a good approach when you receive live footage. So one of the things I always take that rough mix, if the client provides it, and throw it right here into the session, and so it's parallel. And then, of course, when I'm working on the session, I mute it. A couple of things also. I received, it comes with room sounds, and those room sounds, I bust them together, and this is where I'm adding just a little bit of it, and then I'm adding my reverb to that. Of course, with live sessions, you are getting a lot of room sounds that are being picked up by the microphones. So the techniques are a little bit different than when you're getting a pure studio recording, where everything is super dry. So sometimes you have problems trying to pull out that excess room, or fingerprints of other things, so they're in there. Anyways, so this is the session. I posted a video before how to import a session, and I might have rearranged it slightly different color-wise, but that is usually my scheme. I make the drums, I bust the drums together, and they get yellowed. It is sort of off yellow that Logic's drummer is getting by default, so it kind of matches that. We're already used to it. Female lead vocals always get some sort of a pink color. I like it. Nothing wrong with that. You can do any color you want. Bass usually gets blue for me. Electric guitar usually gets green. Rhodes, anything that's like organ or Rhodes, something like that, always gets like this brownish, and then acoustic guitar gets some sort of an off yellow, and everything else then maybe blue. I'll leave it blue. But let's talk about what I have going here. Those are I got 4 delays, and I got 4 reverbs. So those are my delay groups, and I can control them all at once. If it gets too wet, you have my reverbs, right? This sort of like Chris Lord-Alge's method. You might as well use CLA Epic, but this is in essence that. So what you end up with is each track gets 8 sends, right? 4 reverbs, 4 delays, and 4 reverbs. And the takeaway is that every reverb feeds, every delay feeds into, let me show it to you here. I got like separate windows. So every delay feeds into a reverb. And it could feed into all reverbs or just the reverbs of your choosing. This is how you can blend and shape the sound. It's interesting to do it that way, 4x4. You're ending up with a 4x4 matrix. Here on this window here, I'm only showing the auxes or the buses, if you will. But it becomes very clear that you're getting a lot of flexibility. So this is how I managed the room sound, the placement, the 3D-ness of things. All right, so track 1 by 1. This is my bus, drum bus. On that one, that Q3 can be disabled. We're not doing anything with it. I got the BX console. Does not overly much, just a little bit of a lift here around 15 kilohertz, and a tiny bit of a cutting off here at 18 kilohertz, a filter. That's about it. And then the SPL Iron as a compressor, a slow bus compressor with tube bias set to low. The air bass is on, boosts a little bit the bass and boosts a little bit the highs. High pass filter at 122 hertz, meaning the compressor is not affected by anything below. Mono maker at 96 hertz. Stereo width largely left alone, and it is a parallel compression where we are, I don't know, 70% in. Again, slow-ish attack and or medium attack and a pretty fast release, or it depends. This is a little bit program depending with this compressor, but it is fairly slow and it's only doing a dB and a dB and a half at the very most. Gives us a nicer sound that's a bit more together. From the kick drum here, I'm coming in with shaping this curve to bring out that kick in mic, give it a little bit more oomph at around 40 hertz, which it really needed, cutting off anything below 18 or 20, and then dropping down here with a dynamic EQ. I'm using SL4000 as the expander. I'm getting rid of a lot of that bleed. I'm using also a little bit of total harmonic distortion here, and I'm filtering the top around 10K. That's all I'm doing with this. From there, we're going into, and that gives me a pretty good starting point, a clean starting point for my kick replacer. I'm putting a traditional kick on there, and then I blended 70% sample and I guess 30% non-sample original. Putting down the sustain a little bit, tune it down a little bit so we get more oomph, and also make sure that dynamics are a little less responsive than they are played by the actual drummer, so we get a little bit more steady drums. Then I'm using the Puig Tech again with boosting and attenuating at the same time. That is a classic method to get more oomph. Then we're going in with the R bass to warm this up further around 60 hertz, and giving a little bit of that those added harmonics for the kick, and the R bass. And then after that, I'm boosting a little bit here. It still felt like we needed a little bit more low end to round it off. It just didn't sound right on bigger speakers, and get rid of the highs here. And that seems quite a bit. None of these changes were extreme. It all added up to a little bit that I felt it needed in the mix. So we can listen to it a bit. Snare, I did a similar approach. I put a Fabfilter Pro Q3 on there. Then comes we're going gate here, and we're going THD, quite a bit of THD here, and then a filter. That is, normally I would put this higher, but it's already done by the Q3. And then the SPL drum exchanger, we're going 30% dry, so mostly original. And the sample I'm adding, I'm reducing the sustains. It's not too obvious. I'm also reducing the attacks, just so that it sits a little bit underneath it. I guess we can solo this as well. Let's see where it plays. Yep. And with that, it was a pretty thin snare from the beginning. Adding a little bit, reducing a little bit of the highs here, adding a little bit of, I guess, rim, 4.6 kilohertz. Of course, the high pass filter here. And then at the end, another compressor, pretty with a medium attack of 20 milliseconds, fast release, about 35% in, so it's parallel compression, just to bring out the snare more. So the Q3, also, so I'm cutting all the low stuff that we don't need. There's a lot of bleed, if you think about it. Let's check this out here. So if you take those out, that's how it sounds. It's almost the full song that you can hear through those mics. So yeah, do a low pass, high pass filter here around 280. You can even go further up, and then place this dynamic EQ here. And after that, we're going into the console. We're doing expander again, and a high pass filter around 11 or 10K. A little bit of THD that helps, shaving off some of the harshness. After that, there's also the hi-hat are treated fairly similarly. The toms, also again cutting out the bleed in that 3000 hertz region, cutting out a little bit less at the bottom, about 90 hertz, just so we have the body come in. Both toms treated similar. Then the vocals, they are bussed together. Now the lead vocals, on the vocals, they all come together. I'm putting a townhouse bus compressor, slow, high ratio, super slow attack, not super slow, but 10 millisecond attack, automatic release, and about 30% in. So just a little bit of parallel compression in, and then an EQ with the air band at about 15 kilohertz. I just changed it, about 2 dB. So just to lift it up a little bit. The lead vocals have quite a bit on them. Let me play them solo.
Mountain was too tall, but now my sights are set.
All right, so put it right here. So I'm starting with a Pro Q.
Used to take the long way round when the mountain was too tall.
So that automatically gets rid of a lot of the low frequencies here below 231. Dips it a little bit here and raises around in this area. Then I'm adding the Manny American Triple D, just pulling out.
Used to take the long way round.
So what I'm pulling out here is this. D-boxy, D-harsh.
Used to take the long way round.
Right, and then I'm taking out as a de-esser. That is pretty harsh.
When the mountain was too tall, but now my sights are set upon the highest peak of all. You taught me how to climb it now.
Can actually pull out even more. So some Manny American. From there, we're going into CLA 76. So
used to take the long way round when the mountain was too tall.
Immediately it gains more definition right there.
Used to take the long way round when the mountain
Also got a little bit louder, right?
Used to take the long way round when the mountain.
Well, that's always a trick, but I keep an eye on the volume. So this is actually, I wanted to go up in volume just a little bit. But yeah, it sounds better, but it also sounds better because it's a little bit louder here. Then we're bringing in.
Used to take the long way round when the mountain was too tall. But now my sights are set up.
And this adds a little, what this does here, it adds a little bit of distortion here. So in the mix, it'll have more grit. Then we're going in with another de-esser.
Used to take the long way round when the mountain was too tall. But now my sights are set upon.
When she said the sights are set, that's where that S needs to come in. And after that, another compressor.
Used to take the long way round when the mountain was too tall. But now my sights are set upon
So the CLA 3A, and you see we're reducing quite a bit, 3 dB, and it's behaving completely normally.
Used to take the long way round when the mountain was too tall. But now my sights are set. Used to take the long way round when the mountain.
And this is the last one I'm adding here. The F6 again. I'm doing a raise here because it just needed to open up a bit more after all this de-essing.
Used to take the long way round when the mountain was too tall.
So I'm raising it, but I'm also dynamically reducing it. When she starts singing and pushing into those frequencies, it comes down quite a bit, so it's not like over accentuating. After that, we are on 4. We have also a dynamic EQ here. It's number 4. That boxiness, taking that out again. And then a high pass. Not that we need that much because we did that before, but just as a safety measure. Let's listen to that.
Used to take the long way round when the mountain was too tall.
So in the mix, it sounds kind of, fresh and bright. A little less work on the backup vocals. They were pretty straightforward. And then the backup vocals got a similar treatment. They got also a Man American. They got a gate because there's a lot of bleed. And they also got the 76, the 1973, the preamp just for sound improvement. And then the CLA 3A. And this session really doesn't even tickle this computer, which is really cool. On the bass guitar, it was a DI signal. Let's listen to that really quick. So what I did here, pardon for interrupting. And this is how it sounded before. So a lot cleaner, but also less characters. So what I did is, starting with the Hornet again, gain staging, needed reduction of -5 dB to be in line. Then I'm bringing in the UAD Impact Classic. That is a free plugin. I wanted that sound. I'm boosting the bass. I'm on ultra low. A little bit of treble engaged, tiny bit. And the 8x10 gives me a good sound. After that, I'm going into the F6 side chaining to the kick drum. So the kick drum, let's do that here. The kick drum at 60 hertz, whenever the kick drum plays, it's reducing the bass. So we can play that with the kick together. Then after that, we're going into the 1176. Just to catch a little bit. And then after the 1176, just to warm it up, bring everything together. And it's ended up sounding like a very beautiful bass. All right, let's start with the instrument bus. So the instrument's playing like so. So the key with the instruments is making sure that they don't step onto each other's feet. And I did that mostly with the help of SSL 4000. And I didn't use, you could use, I'm sorry about this one. You can use Isotope, and you can use all of them to kind of tell you where the signals overlap, or you can do it by ear. And I like sitting, pretending this is an analog console, and just go by ear. You can always fine tune later and just make sure I'm isolating this like I would if I would be on stage. When you're playing, when you're adjusting amps, you find your spot, and this is basically all it is. So keep this in mind. This still sounds good. Even if it's all together, it sounds good. Good music, it's like having great ingredients when you eat. It still sounds, it's still right. You can take a Prince track and just kind of like mess with the levels, and it's still going to be good music. It's not an ideal mix. It can be a badly mixed, but the music is still there. What I'm trying to say is the performance, the recording needs to be good. If it's good, if it's tight, it's going to sound right. Now, what we're doing here as mixers is making sure every instrument can be heard, and we're not throwing this as it is right here without correction into the mix, so it's going to add up to even more mud. But I just want to say this: it's like if this wouldn't sound right musically, if this would sound bad, there's no adjusting that you can do on this level to fix it. I hope this makes sense. All right, so on the acoustic guitar. Let me activate them all. On the acoustic guitar, it needed a boost in this frequency range here around 9,000 hertz. It needed a boost around, this is a shelf, and this is a bell, around 5,000. And of course, cutting it at 200 hertz high pass filter, and then cutting a little bit of the top end as well. Even though it has a lot of sparkle, it doesn't need to be over 20 hertz. That's not there really, especially not with that, in a live recording. All right, let's listen to the acoustic guitar. With no plate. With plate. All right. Okay, so now let's go Rhodes DI. The Rhodes was interesting because it was overlapping with a lot of things. And the Rhodes is supposed to bring the sparkle. So the cool thing is, with the Rhodes by itself, you wanted, when you play a Rhodes by itself, you wanted to have that body, that grit at the bottom. That's just how it sounds great. But in the mix, it starts dirtying it up quite a bit. So what needed to be done in the Pro Q already, I needed to pull out so it didn't interfere all the way to 540 in order for it to be distinctively in the mix. That's not something you would intuitively do. The Rhodes I boost around 1.9 kilohertz. I boost a little bit here around 3.9, a shelf, and then I'm reducing and pulling out around 580 hertz, pulling out around minus 4.4 dB. I'm also pulling out the 200. That is really not necessary because we, in this case here, pulling these out because we do have the Pro Q3 in the front. And a little bit of a compression here going on. Once in a while kicks in with up to 3 dB reduction. And then I really like the iron on it. And brings out the sparkle. And then on the electric guitar had already a little bit of a delay on it, some sort of a pedal or something. And here also we're cutting the lows a little bit less than on the Rhodes because we want it to be, especially during the solo, to be a bit more dominant, have a little bit more grit, pulling out some of the offending frequencies with a dynamic EQ and rolling off some of the highs. It just wasn't as needed in the mix, and we can test that out really quick. labels are not quite right. This is a slap delay. And add room. So what I'm doing during the solo, I'm moving the guitar, which is always completely to the left, and that's why we're getting over some of the things where the acoustic guitar and the Rhodes are completely on the right, but the electric guitar is all the way on the left. So there is some frequencies can overlap, but since they're separated in the room, you can allow a little bit more. Of course, you have to check a mono mix and make sure that that still works. But you don't have to completely carve out everything if you're using room placement. You're placing it somewhere else in the room. But during the solo, I'm making the guitar player come forward and basically not be all the way to the left, but come a little bit more towards us. Here you go. So, see this? I'm also moving the acoustic guitar kind of like to the other side, so from the right to the left, so it fills out that hole, so you don't have the guitar missing on the left and then you have all the other two instruments all the way to the right. So there's no vocals going on here, so all this can share the stage more. It's like three musicians, or two musicians, because the keyboard player is sitting down, coming forward on stage and kind of like getting like that attention. Now the sound on a stage with fixed amps would probably change, but you know what I mean, if you basically have a little bit of that dynamic going on. And as soon as the singer comes back in, everybody's to the sides, in their place, and doesn't interfere. And then these are my room tracks. Like I mentioned, they are adding a little bit of life. Let's play that. So let's play with it.
Make her miles fast.
And now with it.
Make her miles fast.
You see how that gets a little bit more body? That's basically what it is. So this is normally where you would stop, right? This is mix and then you master it separately. But this is kind of what I would do to bring that track in a mastering session forward. I would lift this here just a tiny bit, run the Shadow Hell mastering compressor.
Make her miles fast.
Turn those off.
The treasures for the finding, but the leads won't always lie.
So on the mastering compressor, what are we doing? We're doing just a dB here and there, not much. It has its own sound, which brings each instrument a bit more separated. But also, I am doing it at around 170 hertz. I have the high pass filter so that it doesn't react to the bass. The mono maker that keeps everything under 105 hertz mono. That's very, very important. I'll show you in the APDR meter how that looks like. Stereo image.
Make her miles fast. The treasures for the finding, but the leads won't always lie.
So yeah, all the mono information, all the bass information is mono. There's no need for it to be different on the left channel than on the right. That'll just create some problems. Then I'm increasing the stereo width to 147. Show you how that actually works.
Make her miles fast. The treasures for the finding, but the leads won't always last. I believe if
So it brings it out a little bit more. And then the ozone. The ozone doesn't have to do much. It actually reduces here. So that's probably me boosting my mix here on with the Q3 and then ozone. I ran the master assistant says no, that's a little bit too much. You were fine just where you were. I take that as a compliment. Didn't need anything on the dynamics, and then it adds a dynamic EQ, basically make the maximizers a limiter, basically life easier. It gave me some crazy threshold to make it super loud. My goal is typically 14 LUFS as loudness, and I think I'm at 12, so I am already pretty loud here. These settings worked fine for me. That was about it, and that gives me a working mix that I can show, and so like, okay, these are about the volumes that we're gonna hit, and the way let's play it for a second.
Make her miles fast. The treasures for the finding, but the lead won't always last. I believe if I keep searching, then my time will come to pass. And it's go, go, go.
Yeah, so what that does is working like this gives you an idea if you run into some problems. If you realize that, you have to do a lot here in the Q3 and ozone's giving you, if you're working with ozone, I'm not a specialist with ozone. I usually use single tools, but it's a good reference. If you get like crazy adjustments that are being made, or you catch yourself having to do crazy adjustments to make it sound good, then you need to go back to the mix and make those adjustments there. So this is definitely a good, what I call it. Yeah, it's a good system to work with. It's a good workflow. But don't forget to turn it off when you bounce your mix. All right, guys. So that is about it. Just an insight into a smaller session. I probably should have talked more about the usage of reverb. As you can see, I use mostly plate and room. Some tape delays here and there. I say tape here, it's really set to slap. So I'm not adding a lot of delays because, like eights and trips, because that's not what happened on stage. And since you do have a lot of bleed, if you add unnatural delays that make a guitar solo or whatever better, you're also adding a lot of multiplications of whatever bleed you have. So you got to be careful with that. Same thing goes for pitch correction. You have some things that are getting caught up in the mix. If you start pitch correcting, that sounds great on the voice, but whatever else you're catching, it's completely out of phase and crazy. But keep in mind, you want to do these things fairly fast. This is not a studio recording. You're only going to get that far with it, and it's a practice and training session. So I hope you liked it. I'm going to be working a little bit more on this, and then I'll post it. All right, bye.